Welcome to week 9 of this fall series of Ironmen that we've again titled The Big Dream. I don't know how many times you've started something with the best of intentions, but you just didn't finish what you started. Or maybe you've had some roadblocks along the way that made you say, I'm done with that, I'm not going to keep going. One of the things I know about life is it's going to give every one of us an opportunity to get off the faith train. And yet the reality is that in many ways struggle and even failure is a part, I believe, of our conversion process. So we're going to spend some time this week talking about the real human response of those who said they were followers of Jesus, not only their victories, but some of their struggles. And even in that, they were still qualified to be on the team and take this baton into the next generation, and so are we. We're going to have a great time talking about that this week. Okay, what I'd like you to do tonight, I want you just to think about this for a minute. I want to get you into groups of no more than 3, if you can, 3 or so, and at least try that, 3 or 4. And here's the question I'd love you to think about. We're going to put it up on the board. I think we have it up there, but here it is. I'd like you to try and think of something that you started with every intention of finishing it, but you didn't. You ever think of something like that? Oh, how many of those do you want me to come up with? But something you really has a good intention to start, but you didn't. And then secondly, can you identify the roadblock or roadblocks to what hanging in there was? Like, why did you intend it? You didn't finish it, but what was the roadblock, all right? I want you to think about that, all right? Just enjoy this for a few minutes. This isn't going to go long. We're going to take about just 5 to 7 minutes on this, and then we're going to come back and then we'll have some more time before we do a few other things, all right? Great. Enjoy this for a few minutes. Hey, let's do this for a little bit, all right? We're going to have the game of True Confessions. What do you think, Steve? That'd be always good. True Confessions is a good game. How do you like that, Wayne? You like that? Yeah, it does. Come on. And I'd love to take a few minutes, and we can think of some things maybe. Let's just, because we're all there, let's just all admit we've all started some things that we haven't finished. Would we all say yes to that? Yes. All right. Good. So let's just talk about a little bit of that. What might be some things that we've all anticipated? I've started something I haven't finished. Yes, Shane, you want it? Yeah.
Coming to this group because I can rely on their ability and people that take care of me, and sometimes it's hard to come here.
Yeah. Thank you, Shane. Dan, help me make sure I got that. You were saying coming here, Shane? Because sometimes it's difficult and you feel like people have to take care of you and it's just hard. It takes a lot of energy and effort. Did I say what you said, Shane?
Yes.
Yeah. That makes sense to you guys? Just, I want to come, but gee, it's just, it's a lot of energy. People got to help me. I don't always ask for help. I'm not sure what people think.
Lucky's got a friend named Dan, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Got a lot of buddies. Thank you, Shane. I appreciate that. How about some others? Just some other things that, you have every intention that, yeah, thank you, Gary.
One thing I regret to this point that I didn't finish school.
You didn't finish school. So you
Got to my junior in college and didn't finish.
You got to a junior in college and you didn't finish. And do you have any idea, can you share why or what was a roadblock or the?
I had a job lined up and everything, but I just became disinterested.
So you just kind of lost interest for whatever reason. Is that right? Okay. Keep going, you guys. Just thank you. He's going to finish school, junior, and stops right there. Tony?
Exercise routine, and you give up on it.
You said what?
Exercise routine.
Oh, exercise routine. Yeah. You set that thing on January 1st, and by January 3rd, we're done that one. We don't want to do that. We have our first workout and go, no way, man. So what kind of shut that thing down?
I guess lack of commitment.
Okay, maybe you don't. It sounds like a great idea until you got to do it. You're not really sure what it entails sometimes, right? I mean, we could talk about, maybe it's just a misnomer of the expectation. It's really interesting. I'll be right there, Bob. I've been running for years. I just started running when I started college, and it was more to stay in shape than anything else. And I really realized early on that if I let the weather determine when I was going to run, I'd quit running. I wouldn't run. So it has nothing to do with weather. And so you just got to take all the reasons right away off the board, because there's so many other things that'll keep you from that. But I would say this, sometimes it's, do we really want what we say we want? We say we want it, but do you truly want it? And sometimes being in the battle exposes the depth of our want. Sounds like a great idea, but do we really want to do this thing? Yeah, Bob?
Hey, man, I think we want it, but do we want to put the effort in to get it?
Okay.
Because like exercise, it takes a while to see results. It takes months, sometimes years. Looking for a job that you want to get. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years. And your expectations, and we are, I've talked to myself, I like instant gratification.
Yeah.
I've worked out for years, and at points I've been proud of myself, and other points I feel like, oh, well, okay, well, not so good.
Yeah.
But, the instant gratification thing is, I think, for me personally, what draws me, keeps me from finishing stuff that I start.
So meaning you don't get the results as quickly as you want?
Because perhaps a couple things. Maybe because I think I know more than I do.
Okay.
Perhaps I think I'm better at something than I really am.
Okay.
And then when I'm not,
Yeah.
I tend to go, it might be a little harder, or, well, let's move on to the next thing and see what I'm not as good at.
Good.
And I
Yeah.
kind of put it before you go,
Yeah.
that's just the experience, I'll just chalk it up to experience.
Yeah, then you go to the next and you go like, hey, some of the same things are common in this arena as they were in the last one.
And at 52 years old, I'm starting to think that maybe it's a pattern that I need to address.
Yeah.
And say, well,
There is a common denominator, and it would be me. That's right, yeah. And you're not the only one. That's why we're all responding with kind of murmured laughter here a little bit. Steve?
So fixing a relationship.
Fixing a relationship. You had every intention of doing that. And why did we not? Or did we stop? Or
Well, some attempts were resisted.
yeah.
I think sometimes I gave up because I felt like it was too painful to try to fix it.
Yeah.
I think currently I'm in the mode where, I'm waiting for God to fix it, but maybe I need to do more to get involved in fixing that relationship.
All right. Can you guys identify with that? I was going to say, how many of you felt like at times there's a marriage that you really feel you have every intention of having your marriage be a little better than it is? I'll give you a little window into the winter session. We're actually you're going to learn the value of 5. The value of taking 5 minutes. Like I guarantee you, if you're in a relationship, right now I said, hey, I'm going to give you 5 minutes right now. Like what's one thing you could do? You just think about one thing you could do to make this relationship you're in, as far as it's up to you, what you could do to maybe take it one step further, communicate a little bit more love, to do the right thing that maybe you're not doing now. Take 5 minutes and think of one thing. How many of you think you could think of one thing? I did this. I can think of one thing.
I can, then I forget it.
Okay, then you forget it, so you write it down, but one thing. But then the reality is sometimes that one thing, sometimes it calls the best out of us. A moment of courage, face something, maybe you have to grow up. It could be painful. You may not get the response you want. Man, we can talk ourselves out of this. And you know what we're faced with? We're still faced with our own humanity, aren't we? That's a tough thing to look at sometimes, is it not? I mean, these things for me, the reason I wanted us to do this isn't anything more than just to remind us, I guess, of how human we are. And I want us to understand this. Remember, we're talking about this what? This big thing that we're calling this series is called what? The Big Dream. And I only say this to remind us. We said at 30,000 feet, what's true? Sun's always out. It's always out at 30,000 feet. The problem is we don't live at 30,000 feet. We live on the ground. And how do we keep a big vision, sunshine view, if you will, in a ground level world? This represents the fact that God is moving history in a direction. This is not up for grabs. Scriptures are very, very clear about this, that he who is in us is greater than he who is in the world. We actually win. This thing is going across the end zone. We're going to make it. Now, it may not make it in our lifetime. It may, I don't know. But here's the point. How do we continue this? So we said, you know, if creation's way back here, obviously, at some point in time, obviously Jesus came 2,000 or so years ago. He was here 33 years in that time frame. And then he goes back to be with the Father. But he did some stuff in those 33 years, didn't he? Yep. And he didn't come just to die on a cross. He did that. But the Scripture says that he came to bring the kingdom of God. That he actually came to reinitiate the way life was meant to be when God created it here when he came. So that we could begin to taste more of earth, so that earth is actually like what? Heaven. And heck yeah, we prayed this. Lord, might thy kingdom come and thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And he began to show us what that's like. And during that time, we said that he's been developing this team, right? Of men and women who had the capacity. If you were here at Grace this weekend, they did a great thing with our leaders, just talking about a four-chair, kind of they put in a metaphor, a strategy that Jesus used. It's not meant to be legalistic or rigid. There's just components of it. But one of the things he did was he intentionally invested in the lives. This is what we've been trying to talk about all these 10 weeks, is these men and women, so that when he was gone, they actually knew how to do what he did and were motivated by the love that he had for them. It wasn't something they had to do, they got to do it. But here's the deal. He's working with damaged goods, right? I mean, look around the room and say, we're messed up. I mean, like, we all love the Lord. We love the Lord, right? Some of us, I don't know where you're at in your journey, but if you didn't have some interest in God at some degree, we're glad you're here. You probably wouldn't be sitting here. But here's what I'm telling you. Like, how many of you look at stuff in your life, you're going like, holy crud, man, I'm not what I was, but I'm still not what I want to be. And you seriously want me to be on this team? The answer is yes. And here's what I know. If the evil one can't stop people from coming to know him, he will do everything he can to discourage those who do know him and disillusion them. So we don't want to keep going. Because here's what he did. When Jesus left, this is meant to keep going, so that this person passes something on to this person, who passes it on to this person, and we keep going so that you and I are sitting in this room. I showed you about 4 weeks ago 2 men who gave their lives to me that walked through a lot of stages of my life starting when I was 15, and they both are still a part of my life now. And what I do with a lot of people is because of them. It isn't because I thought about it. But here's what I know. It's really easy to get off of this faith train, isn't it? I mean, Jesus is totally aware of our frailty, of those who knew him. And because listen to this verse. This is so powerful in John chapter 2. Let me just read this to you. John chapter 2, starting at verse 23. Now, while he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many people saw the miraculous signs that he was doing, and they believed in his name. Get this. But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all men. He did not need man's testimony about men, for he knew what was in a man. He knows what's in us, right? Like, this is crazy stuff. And so, you know, I often have wondered how many people have started this journey, but then they get to the point where they go, oh my gosh, Lord, if people knew what I still did when nobody's looking. Lord, I still have those thoughts. Like, God, I still kind of want to do some of the stuff I was doing before I even cared about what you were thinking about my life and were in my life. And you actually want me to be in this thing? To which he says, yeah, come on and stay with me. Here's what's so profoundly beautiful about this. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, Paul talks about the fact that God has put this treasure in broken vessels. This is really amazing, isn't it? That he's actually healing us as he uses us. And we're going to see some of this tonight. That you don't have to get to certain stages. He actually uses us while he's healing us. And one of my favorite passages in the New Testament is Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5, where it says this, that these were not only lived in faith, but they actually died in faith. They didn't just have it going on while it was good. They actually, when they went across the finish line of their life, they were still humming, man. They may not have had it all together, but they died in faith. And they trusted Him. And so, this is what I want us to take a look at tonight. Because one of the things I'm certain is this, is that every one of us in our life is going to have an opportunity to get off this faith train. Not everybody that starts this thing finishes. You know that's true, right? We want to talk about why that is. We can talk about all that Jesus did, which is really good, and the love that He wants us to know, which is so true. But I know this, there's crazy stuff that goes on inside of every one of us. And there's stuff that you don't even know that's going on in people. And a lot of times you look at somebody and go, man, I thought they were doing great. God, I thought their marriage was awesome. They're doing what? Like, how long has this been going on? Oh, this has been going on a long time. Really? And then the very people who were part of this incredible thing get taken out because they get disillusioned. And so I want to talk about the reality of what it means to be human as we have the baton tonight a little bit. Can we do that? Because then next week we're going to talk a little bit more about the secret sauce. And that God actually gives us something, an incredible gift from His throne to help us be more than we ever imagined, to do things that maybe we never could conceive of. So for your time around Table Talk, I'd love you to consider this. Why do you think that some people maybe just quit in their faith journey or give up? What causes people to stop? And secondly, has there ever been a time in your life, in your faith journey, where you've wanted to quit? Did you? What brought you back? Or why didn't you quit if you didn't? Spend some time talking about this together. Hey, I'd love to just take a few minutes when you think about this fact of, people kind of, I don't know that people all the time just give up on their faith completely. I think sometimes, it can go a little dormant, maybe. I know that we all go through seasons sometimes where you haven't, thrown it out. It's interesting. They've done a lot of research on the millennials and how many of them are, quote, leaving, quote, the organized church. But one thing they're not leaving is the realm of faith. And it still haunts them. And so I just want to, I don't mean when I say, give up like they're quitting, but maybe you kind of, you kind of just let it go for a while, whatever it would be. What are some of the things that you guys just were thinking about when you think why people maybe do that? And maybe even yourself. Yeah, Chris, thank you. It's really good. Thanks for joining in so quick.
Just tragedy.
Real loud.
Tragedy overall, when a couple of us at the table were just talking about losing children or spouses, and you have that eternal question of why me, and if there's a God who cares about me so much, why would this
Okay, so let's stay on that one for a minute. The pain and loss reality. Anybody else kind of get along on that one? And really, let's just talk about that. What's really behind that? We have the why question, right? And it's really an unanswerable question in some ways. But what's even beyond the why question? There's something deeper than the why.
I think things should go my way.
Okay, say that a little louder, Mike. What's that?
I think things should go my way.
Yeah. It's in some ways, it's like we have expectations of what needs to look like. We have expectations of how it ought to be in my life. Like in one sense, I think God would go, I'm not really good with that either. Like this is not part of the plan. We think God's, like He allows this. It's interesting, in 1 Corinthians, we'll be there, 15:26 says this, and one day the last enemy, death, will be destroyed. It's not if it will be, it's the last enemy. It will be destroyed. And I've even asked the question, well, why not now? Have you ever thought maybe there's something worse than physical death? Not being with the Lord forever. And so do you ever think that maybe God doesn't shut it all down in His own mercy? That there's mercy in allowing pain? Because it means we still exist and there's still opportunity for people to meet Him. And there's something far worse than the pain that we struggle now, and it's not knowing God forever. I mean, we don't think this way, but there is, in a sense, in this, there's expectations of what I deserve, what shouldn't happen, and we're almost what's revealed. So I so appreciate you bringing this up, Chris, at least in my own life, because I'll share some experiences of my view of God, of me basically telling God what He's supposed to be like. And He wasn't like that for me. So get this, God, I'm out. And God's going, oh, what am I going to do now? No. Bob, first, go ahead. Real loud, too.
And kind of determine God is the constant and we are the variable.
Okay.
Whereas we are sitting there going, it's like a thermometer, or like you say, like the volume knob.
Yeah.
Everything's good, God's at 10, or 11. And when things aren't going so well, we squelch them down to 2 and go, where are you, God? Why aren't you here now?
Yeah.
Whereas God is always there. His Son is always there. It's just our choice as the variable to choose to accept or to reject.
Yeah. Let me say this, so the other night, they wouldn't mind me sharing this, a week ago, this past Friday, my wife Betsy and I went up to York and met a dear couple who I did their wedding a couple years ago, and they just had their first little baby, Harper. You can be praying for Harper. Harper was born 1 pound, 9 ounces. I mentioned Harper to you. Harper, just today, they've identified 2 different type of bacterial infections and another one. This little thing is like 2 pounds, 4 ounces now. It's got little pneumonia, lungs filled with fluids. She's on a vent. She's fighting like crazy. This thing's still alive. But, the vent is one of the things that's helping cause the infection, but they can't take it out because it's helping her breathe. And so they're in this thing. It's like 1 good day, 2 bad days. 2 bad days, 1 good day. It's like, And if you've ever had a preemie, we did. This was my first kind of dealing with this. We lost our son Jonathan at birth, and then our daughter Jessica was born next, and she was 2 pounds, 4 ounces. And so you go through this kind of thing with them. And so we go up and we're sitting with them, and we know them. And it was really interesting. At one point, the wife said, I'm just angry. And she kind of felt bad being angry. I said, you're angry, right? She goes, yes. I go, do you feel weird about that? You feel bad about that? She goes, kind of. I go, why? Here's why. She'd been taught a God box. And the God box doesn't allow you to be the very thing God created you to be, which is human. You can't be angry. When you feel what God feels like it isn't the way it ought to be, you're not allowed to be mad. I said, so read the Psalms and you tell me if there's not some frustration, anger, lament in that book. I think it's part of the reason why it's written. Now, here's the deal. There's an anger that can be a self-righteous anger that God just goes, when you're done, we'll have a talk. When you're done, we'll have a talk. But there's nothing wrong with the reality of that. And so you could just say, don't you think God is big enough to handle your anger? I think He is. I think in some ways it hurts Him. Then I said this. And I felt somebody need to. I said, that your baby may not make it. There's a chance that your baby that the Harper could die. And they both kind of started crying a little bit. And they go, it was crazy. But it sounds funny, boy, Pat, that was really nice of you to have dinner and tell them that their kid could. And I felt compelled to do it, and they said this. They go, it was really weird. They said, Pat, thank you for saying that. They go, you're the first person that's told us what we kind of knew, because I felt if we said it, we were acting like we didn't believe in God. I go, really? Let's talk about that. So you're living in this constrained thing, dealing with all these emotions. And so you don't know, instead of bringing it up, because see, here's the deal. If you're afraid of losing something, then you're afraid to embrace it. And so you can't even embrace your child for fear that you might have to say goodbye to your child. Now, however long you have her, don't you want to embrace her no matter what would happen? Because here's the other hard thing that the Scriptures say. Our children are a gift from the Lord. They are not a possession. They're a gift. They're God's before they're ever ours. And it is really interesting how I made a possession of a gift. That same 2-year-old almost left us again when she was 18. And I had one of these moments with God where, I'm here teaching at Grace and all these things. And, people are looking to me for answers. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, God, all I know is I got a kid that may die, and I'm looking out the window, and the sun came up again today. And my emotions are all over the place. And I felt at that time, I really had to put a stake in the ground and decide right then whether I was in or out. Because God wasn't going to be good if Jessica lived, and He wasn't going to be bad if Jessica died. He is who He is. And I would say this, if God said, look, I'm going to give you your daughter, but you'll only have her for 18 years. Do you still want her? I would have said yes in a nanosecond. But isn't it interesting how much we feel like we're being cheated? And in a sense, we are from a creational perspective of how it ought to be, but God is still gracious with us in this. Jesus was very clear about this. In this world, John 16:33, you will have what? Trouble. That's not just little moments of heartache. Like, you're going to have some flippant stuff that keeps you awake at night that you don't get. You're going to look at yourself in the mirror sometime and go, who are you? What? Dude, really? And then you got to figure out, where am I going to go to really answer that question? Who's going to give me the who are you answer? Am I going to go to culture? Am I going to go to where? Because it's kind of like the disciples said in John 6 eventually, Lord, where else are we going to go? For only you have the words of eternal life. You're going to go drink a little more? You're going to look at a little more screen, a little more porn? You're going to take some more stuff? You're going to try to get more people to like you? Like, you're going to get a little busier? Like, at some point, you still got to deal with who? You, me too. But here's what I'm trying to say. In this vision of what Jesus is trying to do, I'm just trying to give us a bigger picture. He's working with people like us in the midst of what we go through, who are trying to give this away to other people, who are trying to interpret life like us and not quit as we're trying to do this. Here's what 1 John 2 says. Because see, everybody's going to face this. Don't love the world or the things of the world. Right? I heard you say something about this, Frank. For all that's in the world, the lust of the flesh. Any of you guys know this? We got lust, we have the flesh. Now, the flesh refers in this instance to your skin, your body, and the desires that go with it that are bent. It doesn't mean every desire with your flesh is bad, like hunger and food or proper sexual desire, but this speaks to the bent part of it. Lust means a strong desire for what is bent and broken. It means that we want more from it than it can give, and it begins to rule us instead of us ruling it. And the lust of the eyes, we just want more. And the boastful pride of life, right? All these things are from the world, and the world and its lust is passing away. Mark 4, you remember the parable of the sower and the seeds? You guys remember that? Well, seed 3 begins to grow, but then it says some things start choking it out. And it says what? The worries of this world. You guys have any of those? Got bills to pay? Anybody lose a job? Any of your kids struggling? Trouble with a neighbor? Oh my gosh. Worries of this world. The deceitfulness of riches. The desire for other things. Choke it. Here's what I'm saying. All these things, guys, are in play every single day. And we're walking down the road, and it's almost like a little worries of the world go, hey, yo, you got some time for me? Walking down the road, oh, man, if I had a little more of that, and it might be true, if I had a little more of that, that would really help. And you start moving over there, say, oh, man, it's so bad at home. Maybe I'll just look, And these things are just shouts. It's like you're walking down a road and you're getting hit from all different sides. We're vulnerable people unless our heart gets won, right? So here's what our Lord does. He's so magnificent in this. Jesus, in many ways, I think, we're going to go through these real quickly, But when he invites the disciples to the next place, if they're here in their journey with the Lord, right? He doesn't ask them to go way up here. You know, Jesus didn't go, come and see, and then go, whoever wants to follow me must deny himself, take up his cross daily and follow me. Whoever loves it, you know, he didn't go that far. I mean, that was literally 2 years in. He just goes, like if Wayne's right here, next step for Wayne's right here. Now, it might feel like it's way out there, Wayne, but it's right here. You get there, next step's probably right here. Next step's right here. But it might feel like it's way out there, but it's right here. Because he knows us, right? So, you know, in John chapter 1, verse 35, here's the first response. First stage of Jesus' ministry, his initial calls. Hey, come and see. How many of you guys know some people that don't know the Lord that any of us in a conversation can go like, hey, what are you afraid of? You don't have to be afraid of him. Either he's real or he isn't. Why don't you just come and see? You got nothing to lose. Because here's what I know. You're going to face things. Like, here's what I know people are asking this. I did a funeral for a young guy named Rick Warren, 33 years old, killed in a work accident about 6 or 7 months ago. I still see his dad at the Y often. His dad's an amazing man. And one of the days his dad goes to the Y is on Thursdays. I saw him in there not too long ago. It was a Thursday at 4:30, somewhere in there. And he goes, you know, every Thursday, 3:30. Every Thursday, 3:30. Every Thursday, 3:30. That's when he got the call. And they're not church people, really. They're not big churchgoers. But they came here because for some reason they knew me, my son, through Young Life, and asked me to walk into that place in their life. And so there's a funeral. There's 500 people here. All kinds of people here. I mean, I guarantee you, 60 of them had been in my house often when they were high school kids. And they had heard, some responded little by little, but I'm telling you, at Ricky's death, in that auditorium, we had a chance to talk about come and see. Because everybody thinks about this, right? See, this is why death is the last enemy. But here's what I also know about death. It preaches, man. It preaches. Everybody's got to still answer the question. And you got to figure out from which resource base you're dealing with it. So Jesus says, come and see. Then you know John 2, verse 11, he turns water into wine. First miracle. Get this, it says the disciples at that point, they began to believe and put their trust in him. They weren't like fully won, they just began. Do you ever feel like, man, I'm just beginning. I just began to put their faith in Jesus. Some of them feared, some of them doubted. They do all these things. Then get this, a little over a year in, you guys memorize this verse, right? Matthew 4:19, where it says, Jesus says, follow me and I will make you what? He was a year into that. He was a year in. Shane, we'll see you, buddy. Bless you, man. We're a year into it at that point. This is Matthew 4:19. Kind of a crazy thing. Then get this. You guys may have heard this. This is Matthew 8, verse 20. This guy, one of the teachers came to him and said, Master, I'll follow you wherever you want to go. And he goes, look, foxes have holes, birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. If you're going to follow me, dude, you better be ready to be a little uncomfortable. That was 2 years in. That wasn't right out of the chutes. 2 years in. And they think, I just want you to see where these deeper calls go. Here's another one. You know this, where else can we go? John 6:66, 2 years in. These guys have been with Jesus 2 years up to that point, and he talks about eating his body, drinking his blood. He doesn't get them on the side and go, hey guys, that's a metaphor. We're going to call that communion later. I'm not trying to be funny. I mean, he's literally saying, dudes, like, you'll get it when I'm on the cross, but you're going to partake. If you don't partake of everything I'm about ready to do in a year from now, and in a year from now, they can look back on something that was a year back in time and go, so that's what he meant back then. Some things you don't understand until you look at it in the rearview mirror, right? That was 2 years in. And they go, where else are we going to go, Lord? Only you have the words of eternal life. Here's a crazy one. Mark 8:31. This is one where Jesus said, look, who are you? You're the Son of the living God. Jesus talks about going to the cross. Peter goes, oh, no, Lord, you can't do that. Like, Jesus goes, get behind me, Satan. You know, because Satan doesn't want Jesus to go to the cross. Now Peter's talking like the evil one. And then Jesus goes, look, whoever wants to follow me, you got to deny yourself. Take up your cross and follow me. Because if you want to save your life, you got to lose it. And whoever loses his life will save it. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? You know when that was shared? That's a little over 2 years in. See, it's just the next step. If Jesus would have blasted that one on the seashore right when these guys first met him, how do you think that would have gone over? Not too good. Here's what I'm trying to say to you guys. Now, think about this one. In Luke 22, we're right at the end. Jesus says this to Peter real quickly. Verse 31 of Luke 22. Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift you as wheat. What? Hey, Steve, Satan's asked to sift you as wheat. But I've prayed for you. Thank you, Lord. I prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. Now get this. What did Jesus pray that his faith wouldn't do? Okay, now he says this. And when you've turned back, Jesus just prayed that his faith wouldn't fail. But then he says, but when you turn back, what's that imply? That he failed. He did in the event. But Jesus says this. But when you turn back, your failure is not final. Peter, you're going to blow up. But it's not a complete blow up. It's a blow up along the road of following me. I want to encourage us. Isn't this great? That blow ups don't take us out of the journey or being on a team. And I can't tell you how many people said, I was following Jesus, I screwed up, I'm out. I want Jesus, but I keep struggling with that, I'm done. I can't keep it up, Lord. He goes, what do you have to keep up? You know, I actually pray for you. You actually need me. You needed me before you met me, and you need me just as much after you met me. You never don't need me. Ever. It's all about me, it's not about you. I'm the vine, you're the branch. Branches don't answer, the vine doesn't answer to the branch. Branches answer to the vine. He goes on, then this great. But then when you've turned back, I want you to strengthen your brothers. Isn't that awesome? Like, Peter, something's going to happen to you. You're going to blow up. But when you come back, I want you to go back and strengthen your brothers. Then Peter goes, not me, Lord. I am not going to blow up. He goes, you really are. In fact, before the end of this day, you're going to deny me 3 times. Now look down at verse 61 of the same chapter, verse 60. Peter then replies his 3rd time, man, I don't know what you're talking about. This is his 3rd rebuke of saying he didn't know Jesus. Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. Get this. The Lord turned, looked straight at Peter. Can you imagine? I don't think it was like, you screw up look. It's like, Peter, I got this. I got this. And I know it's in the heart of man. And I prayed for you. And when you come back, you tell people about that look. Get this. Peter then remembered the word the Lord had spoken to him. It didn't take long. He just spoke it to him probably hours before. Before the rooster crows today, you will disown me 3 times. Then he went outside and he wept bitterly. Jesus dies. All these people huddle in an upper room. 3 days later, Jesus comes back, and it says that he appeared without knocking on the door. Isn't that awesome? He's there. They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They couldn't believe it for joy. We don't have time to go into this tonight, next week. But Jesus asked, why do you doubt? Why do you have trouble in your hearts? Look, see, it's me. Look at my hands, my feet. And they couldn't believe it for joy. And then Jesus does something crazy. He goes, you guys have anything to eat? What a great sense of humor in a good way. Because he knew they didn't get it yet. Like, you ever something so good? Like, Lord, we all bailed on you. Like, we were the team, and we all said, yes, 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 yes. Foxes have holes. We'll deny you. We're in. And then we blew up, and we're thinking it's all over. Like, the whole mission's done. And you're back. Like, could it be? I told you guys about this umpteen times. This was going to go down. I get it. Just give me something to eat. And they see that it doesn't hit the floor. And they know game on again, right? And now they're all jacked up. We're going to go change the world. That's next week. He goes, no, don't do that. Just stay here because you need the secret sauce. But until that time, I just want us to understand this. Have you ever thought that struggle is a part of the conversion process? Yes. Like, how many of you have met Jesus? At best you know, you feel like you've met the Lord in some way, shape, or form. So let me ask you this. Do you think you can still meet the Lord? There might be some of you in this room who say, I don't know if I've met him yet. You can. And I would say, and if tonight would be the first time you'd say yes to Him, I would say this, plan on having it many more times. I feel like I've said yes to the Lord again and again and again and again. I had to say yes. I can tell you umpteen times. I had to say yes with Jonathan. I had to say yes with Jessica more than once. I've had to say yes, Lord, to some other things in my family in the last 2 months. Lord, you won me. You won me. You won me. You won me. And every time I keep thinking, Lord, where else am I going to go? And then Jesus beautifully comes to the lake in John 21. And Jesus screams out to Peter, hey, you guys catch anything? Same as Luke 5. Nope. Throw your net on the other side to catch 153 fish. And Peter goes, it's the Lord. Rips off his clothes, jumps in. Jesus already got a fire with fish. I love that. Here's what I love about Jesus. We can go so much in that passage. I love this. But that Jesus fixes breakfast for failures. That He loves, because Jesus knew this. Peter, you didn't always get your behavior right, but I knew even through all of it, you wanted me. I was getting your heart. And that's what I got to have more than anything is your heart. And see, you know what the evil one tries to do? He tries to take your heart. Tries to steal your loyalty. Tries to rob you of God's affection. As though you had to do something before you got it in the first place. Isn't it funny how we come to God in His grace, and yet we know Him somehow by works? We know Him by grace too. We just need the Lord. And we have this great cloud of witnesses. Here's what I know about us, guys. There's a greater internal motivation if we're going to stay on this road and keep passing this baton, and I said this, is to be captivated by a greater love. And none of us is enough, and every one of us in this room is capable of screwing up big time. But here's what I also know. If you don't quit, and we won't let each other quit, you are also capable of magnificent things by the power of God. You are capable of not just an okay marriage, but a magnificent one. Potentially. If the people in that marriage want what He wants. You are capable of being a magnificent friend. A worker. Just somebody that sees people better. If you just don't quit and you keep leaning in. So I want to end by showing you a little, just a really inspirational thing by Denzel Washington called Lean Forward. It's a great little story about his own life a little bit. And then we'll pray, but I want you just to end with this. It's just about 3 or 4 minutes, but be encouraged by this.
Fall forward. This is what I mean. Reggie Jackson struck out 2,600 times in his career, the most in the history of baseball. But you don't hear about the strikeouts. People remember the home runs. Fall forward. Thomas Edison conducted 1,000 failed experiments. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Because the 1,001st was the light bulb. Fall forward. Every failed experiment is one step closer to success. You've got to take risks, and I'm sure you've probably heard that before, but I want to talk to you about why that's so important. I got 3 reasons, and you can pick up your iPhones. First, you will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. You will suck at something. There's no doubt about it. And I know that's probably not a traditional message for a graduation ceremony, but hey, I'm telling you, embrace it, because it's inevitable. And I should know. In the acting business, you fail all the time. Early on in my career, I auditioned for a part in a Broadway musical. Perfect role for me, I thought, except for the fact that I can't sing. So I'm in the wings, I'm about to go on stage, but the guy in front of me, he's singing like Pavarotti. He's just, he's just going on and on and on, and I'm just shrinking. I'm getting smaller and smaller. So they say, "Oh, thank you very much, and you'll be hearing from us." So I come out with my little sheet music, and it was Just My Imagination by the Temptations. That's what I came up with. So I hand it to the accompanist, and she looks at it and looks at me and looks out at the director and was like, all right. So I start, you know, I'm going to sing. I'm like, it's just my imagination once again, and they're coming away with me. And they're not saying anything, so I'm thinking I'm getting better. So I just start getting into it. It was just running. This, oh yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Washington. Thank you. So I assumed I didn't get the job. But the next part of the audition, he called me back. The next part of the audition is the acting part of the audition. So I'm like, hey, okay, maybe I can't sing, but I know I can act. So they pair me with this guy, and again, I didn't know about musical theater. And musical theater is big, so they could reach everyone all the way in the back of the stadium. And I'm more from a realistic, naturalistic kind of acting where you actually talk to the person next to you. So I don't know what my line was. My line was, well, hand me the cup. And his line was, well, I will hand you the cup, my dear. The cup will be there to be handed to you. I said, oh, okay. Well, should I give you the cup back? Oh, yes, you should give it back to me because you know that is my cup and it should be given back to me. I didn't get the job. But here's the thing. I didn't quit. I didn't fall back. I walked out of there to prepare for the next audition, and the next audition, and the next audition. I prayed. I prayed, and I prayed. But I continued to fail, and fail, and fail. But it didn't matter, because you know what? There's an old saying, you hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later you're going to get a haircut. So you will catch a break, and I did catch a break. Last year, I did a play called Fences on Broadway. Someone talked about it. Won the Tony Award. And I didn't have to sing, by the way. But here's the kicker. It was at the Court Theater. It was at the same theater that I failed that first audition 30 years prior. The point is, and I'll pick up the pace, the point is every graduate here today has the training and the talent to succeed. But do you have the guts to fail? Here's my second point about failure. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. I'll say it again. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. My wife told me this great expression. To get something you never had, you have to do something you never did. Les Brown's a motivational speaker. He made an analogy about this. He says, imagine you're on your deathbed, and standing around your deathbed are the ghosts representing your unfulfilled potential. The ghost of the ideas you never acted on. The ghost of the talents you didn't use. And they're standing around your bed, angry, disappointed, and upset. They say, we came to you because you could have brought us to life, they say. And now we have to go to the grave together. So I ask you today, how many ghosts are going to be around your bed when your time comes?
This thing's only going to keep going because of people like you and me. And we haven't all got it together, right? And it'd be easy to think, I'm not good enough, I quit, use somebody else. But I'm not going to go where Dan goes every day. Only Dan's going to go where Dan's going to go every day. And Dan's not going to be where I am every day. The same with you, Mike. And then together, we have double impact. It's just how we think about this. And here's what I know. The evil one will use whatever he can to try to disillusion us to quit. To make us feel like we're not good enough, sharp enough, smart enough, talented enough. I'm not good with my words. I don't know what to say. You know, Moses didn't work for him when he tried to get talked out, try to talk God out of not being used, So I just want to encourage us. We're going to talk next week a little bit more about this as we review some things as well. But that there is really no limit to what God can do, because this is His vision. This thing's going forward with or without us. We get to be a part of it. And I just don't want you guys to miss it. And I'm so grateful for the people who believed in me when I wanted to just find a lot of reasons to not be used. And so you guys are sitting here today because some other people pushed me here and other places. I didn't want to do this. I've told you guys that more than once. I really didn't want to do this. And it was all about me and my insecurities and my craziness. But God wouldn't let me hide. So we're going to keep running, right? All right. Amen. Well, let's do this. Let's stand and we'll do our verses. And next week we'll be here again, Lord willing. Come and follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. And the things that you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others. Amen. So in preparation for our final week of this fall series, we're going to spend some time just reviewing. So maybe you could go over your notes if you've been following along and just taking a look at some things. But this week, we're going to spend some time talking about what I would call the secret sauce. Meaning, how did this small band of believers actually move into the world they were in with power and faith and courage, engaging their culture in a way that within 100 years, most of the known world was said to have had some type of understanding of this person of Jesus. And then think of where we are today. One thing I know, it was beyond personality. It was beyond just zeal and character. It took power from above. And we're going to spend some time this week talking about the secret sauce, power from above.